The soft hum of the sewing machine filled the air, blending with the faint scent of lavender from the tailor's workshop. I stood on the small platform in front of the full-length mirror, my reflection wrapped in layers of delicate white lace and silk. The fabric caught the afternoon light, shimmering like frost on untouched snow. "Turn, sweetheart," the seamstress said gently, her hands tugging at the hem to check the length. My bridesmaids sat in the corner, their voices bubbling over with laughter as they scrolled through wedding inspiration on their phones, completely absorbed in their own conversations. I should have been smiling. I should have been caught up in the same excitement they felt. But instead, my chest felt heavy. My thoughts floated somewhere far away, a quiet unease whispering in the back of my mind. I told myself it was just pre-wedding nerves, the kind everyone gets before a big day. As the seamstress adjusted the dress, my hand absent-mindedly smoothed over the fabric at my waist. My fingers traced the intricate stitching, following the curve of the seam, until they slid into a small, almost hidden gap in the lining. I frowned. There shouldn't have been an opening there. Inside, something crinkled. I glanced quickly toward the others. No one was paying attention. Slowly, I reached into the gap and felt the edges of folded paper. The texture was crisp but fragile, like something old. I pulled it free. It was an envelope, slightly yellowed, as though it had been hidden away for years. Across the front, in elegant blue ink, was my name. My heart gave a small, sharp jolt. I knew that handwriting. I had seen it countless times on birthday cards, grocery lists stuck to the fridge, and notes left on my pillow when I was a child. It was my mother's. Beneath my name was a date. 15 years ago. I was barely 3 years old. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My eyes traced the curves of each letter again and again, as if doing so would change them into something else, something harmless. "Everything all right, dear?" The seamstress's voice pulled me back. I forced a smile. "Yes, just a little dizzy." She fussed over me for a moment before turning back to her sewing. I slipped the envelope into my purse, my fingers trembling. The chatter of my bridesmaids felt muffled now, distant, as though I were underwater. The room felt warmer, the air heavier. I made an excuse to step outside, claiming I needed some fresh air. The street was quiet except for the faint hum of passing cars. I leaned against the cool brick wall of the shop, clutching my purse tightly. The envelope seemed to burn against my side. Why would my mother hide a letter in my wedding dress? And why would she write it when I was still a toddler? I wanted to open it right then and there. But something, some instinct I couldn't name, held me back. I didn't know it yet, but the moment I found that letter, my life had already begun to unravel. The envelope felt like a small, ticking bomb in my purse. All the way home, I couldn't stop touching it through the fabric of my bag, my fingertips grazing its edges as if to reassure myself it was still there. The bus ride seemed endless, the chatter of strangers a dull hum in the background. My thoughts spun in tight, dizzying circles. When I reached our apartment, the familiar scent of cinnamon and coffee greeted me. My mother was in the kitchen, her hair tied up in a messy bun, humming softly to a song I didn't recognize. She looked so normal, so ordinary. I almost convinced myself not to mention it. But the words slipped out before I could stop them. "Mom, did you ever put something in my wedding dress?" Her hand froze mid-stir over the pot of soup. The spoon clinked against the side, and for a moment, she didn't turn around. "Why do you ask?" she said finally, her voice light, too light. I thought I felt something sewn inside. Like a note or something. It had your handwriting." She turned then, smiling, but her eyes didn't match. "Oh, maybe a little good luck charm. You know how seamstresses can be sentimental." It was a lie. I could feel it in my bones. My mother never lied without blinking. And just now, she'd blinked, twice. I tried to keep my tone casual. It was dated 15 years ago. The wooden spoon slipped from her fingers and clattered onto the countertop. She bent to pick it up quickly, muttering something about being clumsy, but her hands were shaking. "You shouldn't dig into old things, sweetheart," she said quietly, turning back to the stove. "Sometimes they're meant to stay buried." Her words chilled me more than they should have. I laughed it off, changed the subject, but inside, my mind was screaming. That night, the letter lay on my nightstand, bathed in the pale light of the moon filtering through my curtains. I sat cross-legged on the bed, staring at it. My hands hovered above it more than once, ready to tear it open, but every time, something stopped me. It wasn't fear of what it might say. It was the strange, sharp certainty that my life would split into before and after once I read it. Just as I was about to give in, my phone lit up. It was my aunt. Her voice, when I answered, was hushed, urgent. "Don't open it, Ilara. Not yet." I froze. "How do you know about the letter?" There was a pause, then the sound of her taking a shaky breath. "Because I'm the one who told your mother to hide it. And if you open it now, you'll lose more than you realize." Before I could respond, she hung up. The silence that followed was deafening. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my mother's face, smiling, but with that tiny flicker of fear in her eyes, and my aunt's voice, urgent and trembling, echoing in my head, "You'll lose more than you realize." By sunrise, I had made up my mind. I couldn't just ignore it. If my mother and aunt had gone to such lengths to hide this letter, then whatever it contained wasn't just personal, it was dangerous. And I needed to know why. I started with the date. 15 years ago. I would have been 3 years old. I tried to recall anything from that time, but my earliest memories were hazy, fragmented, faces I couldn't name, a dim hallway, the smell of something burning. While my mother was out grocery shopping, I went to the old cedar chest in the attic. It was where she kept everything from our family's past: photo albums, baby clothes, even a stack of yellowed newspapers. My hands moved quickly, almost frantically, pulling out albums, flipping through pages. That's when I noticed something strange. Between the years 2008 and 2010, there were no photographs. Not a single one. It was as if those 2 years had been erased from our family history. I dug deeper and found an old community newsletter from exactly 15 years ago. On the back page was a short article, barely a few paragraphs, about a fire in a small house on the edge of town. No casualties were reported, it said. But the house belonged to the Whitford family. I had never heard that name before. Just then, the floorboard behind me creaked. I froze. Slowly, I turned. My mother was standing in the attic doorway. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were something else entirely. "What are you doing up here?" she asked softly. I swallowed hard. "Just looking through some old photos." She stepped inside, her gaze sweeping over the open chest, the scattered papers, the newsletter in my hand. "You shouldn't be looking at those," she said, her voice firm now. Enough, Ilara." She reached out her hand. "Give it to me." I hesitated, my fingers tightening around the paper. For a moment, I thought she might lunge forward. But instead, she turned on her heel and left, her footsteps heavy on the stairs. My heart was still pounding when I glanced at the window. That's when I saw it. A man, standing on the sidewalk across the street, staring up at our house. He didn't move. He didn't wave. He just stood there, watching. And when our eyes met, he smiled. I blinked, and the man was gone. At first, I thought I'd imagined him. Maybe my mind was so tangled in paranoia that I'd conjured his presence. But when I stepped closer to the window, I saw the faint outline of shoe prints in the damp pavement where he'd been standing. That night, I kept the curtains drawn tight. The street outside seemed too quiet, as if the whole neighborhood was holding its breath. Every creak in the house made my pulse quicken. I decided I couldn't stay passive anymore. If the letter was the key, then I needed to know what was inside. I retrieved it from my drawer, my fingers trembling as I slid them under the seal. But before I could tear it open, I heard a faint scratching sound, coming from outside my bedroom window. I froze. Slowly, I turned my head. The silhouette of the man was there again, standing in the shadows of the yard, closer this time. His head tilted slightly, as if studying me. And then, in one slow, deliberate motion, he raised his hand, holding something small between his fingers. It was a photograph. From this distance, I couldn't make out the details, but I knew one thing for certain: it was old, and the edges were burnt. I yanked the curtain closed, my breath coming in short gasps. I grabbed my phone and dialed my aunt's number. She answered on the second ring, her voice urgent again. Elara, listen to me very carefully, she said. If you've seen him, you need to leave the house right now. Who is he? I whispered. There was a pause, then her voice dropped to a trembling whisper. He's the reason we hid the letter. And if he's found you, it means he knows you're close to the truth. I pressed my back against the wall, clutching the phone so tightly it hurt. What truth? But instead of answering, she said something that made my stomach drop. Don't trust your mother. Not until you've read the whole letter. And if you decide to open it, do it somewhere far from home. The line went dead. I didn't wait until morning. I shoved the letter into my backpack, grabbed my jacket, and slipped out into the cold night air. The street was empty, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was trailing me. Every shadow seemed to lean closer, every gust of wind carried whispers I couldn't quite catch. I walked fast, too fast, until I reached the old library on the edge of town. It was always open late, and more importantly, it was one of the few places my mother never visited. I found a seat at the far end of the reading room, under the dim light of a brass lamp. With shaking hands, I broke the seal. The paper inside was yellowed and brittle, the ink faded but still readable. The first line stole the air from my lungs. If you are reading this, it means the Whitford fire didn't erase the past completely. My eyes raced over the words. The letter wasn't from a stranger, it was from my father. Only. My father had died in a car accident when I was 5. Or so I had been told. He wrote about the night of the fire, how it wasn't an accident at all. The Whitford family, he claimed, wasn't a random name in the paper. They were our family. The house that burned down was where we lived. And my mother. She had set the fire herself. Not to kill, but to erase. Erase what? The answer came in the next paragraph, and my blood turned to ice. He said there had been another child. A brother. Older than me by 2 years. One night, my mother discovered something he had done, that made her believe he was dangerous. She claimed she was protecting me. My father disagreed, but before he could stop her, the fire took everything. The final lines were the worst. If you see the man watching, don't run. He is your brother. And he has been looking for you ever since. I lowered the letter, my hands numb. Somewhere in the library's silence, a floorboard creaked. I turned slowly. There he was, the man from outside my window, standing in the aisle between the bookshelves, the burnt photograph still in his hand. Now I could see it clearly. It was me. A little girl in front of a house engulfed in flames. And beside me, a boy with the same eyes I saw staring at me now. He stepped forward, his voice low but steady. Hello, Elara. We have so much to talk about.